Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi series figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at our first ever DX Darth Vader. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys Star Wars figure review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, it's been a while since we've had a nice big chonky DX box to get stuck into. I'm pretty sure the best artwork is yet to come though, underneath this thin flimsy piece of cardboard for the slipcover. Front and center we have an image of battle damaged Vader, special edition in the top right hand corner, and down below on the glossy wraparound banner, another image of Vader, plus his display base in the background for some reason. On the side of the box, just another image of Darth Vader on the wraparound banner. And then around the back, DX, warnings and legal information, as well as Hot Toys store locations. They always tuck that boring stuff back there. You see, that's more like it. Printing this absolutely gorgeous poster-style artwork done in this metallic foil finish with the black, so there's a ton of contrast on this thick and sturdy cardboard, it feels a little bit special. And for a DX release, that's exactly what you want. We've got an image of Vader front and center, his castle in the background, and an image of Ewan as Obi-Wan. That's not a figure, that's actual Ewan. Then down below, just above the metallic foil Star Wars logo, we have the Inquisitors. Normally I'd be fine with this, because we do have Reva and Grand Inquisitor already, but the other two at the time of filming this video haven't even been announced yet. Printing unannounced figures on boxes for releases, I find that a bit odd. It's a no from me. On the side of the box, the artwork continues to wrap around, and it's metallic all the way around right to the back of the box. We have the Death Star up top, but interestingly enough, it looks like it's the Death Star 2. Maybe they're trying to say that it's still under construction, and we'll just give them the benefit of the doubt in that they didn't print the wrong Death Star on the box. It wouldn't be the first time they've done that though. We have Darth Vader Deluxe version in the middle, and what looks to be some sand dunes down the bottom. Around the back, the twin sons of Tatooine, which now of course explains the sand dunes. We then have warnings and legal information in the middle. The same exact warnings and legal info as was printed on the slipcover. I really like the splotchy / brushstroke effect they've got going on here. It almost reminds me of some old school Japanese style artwork. And seeing as though there is a lot of Japanese and samurai influence in Star Wars, that absolutely works for me. Whoa, things just got a whole lot redder. And no, I didn't adjust the saturation. It's just that the artwork on this piece of cardboard is way more saturated than what was printed on the outside of the box. We have an image of the figure himself, Ewan once again in the background, not a figure, Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, his name, and a read-up. Feel free to pause to read. This thing is foam-backed, so it's nice and protective for Darth Vader. But not that he really needs protection, because he himself is nestled within this cocoon of foam. There is this cardboard layer over the top of the foam, just letting you know what the accessories are, I suppose. And it's hiding all of his hands. Now, I've been waiting for a prequel-style Darth Vader for a very long time. Some people would argue that this is more of an original trilogy-style Vader, but don't forget, it was Hayden in the costume, so for me this works for a Revenge of the Sith Darth Vader, or at least a stand-in for now. First in-hand impressions? So far so good, he looks absolutely brilliant. What we are going to do now though is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box, and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first. But which one is the question? Because Vader comes with two bases. Back in the day, DX releases used to come with two bases all the time. But nowadays, it's not very commonplace. I'm glad that Vader comes with two, because I can see myself using either of these in my collection. They are both reused bases though. This one we first saw with the Mark 85 battle damaged figure. I'm fine with the reuse because it reminds me of the planet that Obi-Wan and Vader were fighting on at the end of the series, where it was all grey and rocky like this. There's a ton of texture on the surface, it's painted in a darker shade of grey, but then there's some lighter grey dry brushing on top of the texture to bring out all that detail. We do have a clear rod up on top and a single piece crotch grabber. They have, unfortunately, only included one of these, so you will have to switch this between the bases. Not really a massive deal because we only get one Darth Vader, so it's not like we're going to be displaying both of these bases on our shelf, unless you decide to give one to another figure already in your collection. Then you'll have to sort yourself out another clear pole. This base might be a little bit less recognizable as compared to the other, because it was originally packaged with a quarter scale figure, not a 1/6 release. The first time we saw this was with the quarter scale Return of the Jedi Darth Vader. And I'm fine with it being used here because it doesn't look out of scale and it provides us a massive, wide open canvas for dynamic posing. And it's got a USB-C powered light up effect. The only annoying thing with that is they do not include the USB-C cable. Hot Toys, please, quit doing that. If you are powering things with USB-C, you should be including the cable. It's a bit rich to ask people to buy your figure, which is already quite expensive, and then have to go out, run down to the shops and pick up a USB-C cable for every single release powered by USB-C. When you do plug it in, it looks even more awesome. This is just generic enough that it could literally be anywhere as long as it's Imperial. A Venator, or a Star Destroyer, I guess they were renamed to chronologically in the timeline when the Obi-Wan Kenobi series happened, the Fortress Inquisitorius, or Darth Vader's castle. It's entirely up to you and your imagination. One of my favourite things about this DX Vader is that he comes with two helmets. One battle damaged, which just isn't something we've ever seen before in 1/6 scale, and one completely clean. Do weigh in down in the comments below, which one do you prefer? And of course, we will try out both of them on him a little bit later. To go along with the battle damaged and clean helmets, we've got battle damaged and clean chest boxes. This one is bright, shiny, brand new and pristine, whereas the one on the left has gashes through it, it's all gnarled up and nasty looking, and it's got this speckling of dirt and grime over the top to make it look singed. As special edition bonuses go, this is pretty lackluster. It's a hologram projection of the Grand Inquisitor. We can remove it from the little projection piece down below, and I like that this is painted in metallic blue to make it look like the light is bouncing off the surface as he's being projected up out of it. And there's this almost TV scan-like effect to the mold, making it look like a janky moving hologram. For Vader's sabers, we have two options. One that's USB powered and the other that's just a normal hilt that you can plug the blade into and it doesn't light up. Maybe this one is more so meant to be displayed on his belt, whereas the other is meant to be used with the blades. But you can plug them into either one. They've got these metal D-rings around the back, and they're painted in this really nice shiny metallic silver. To go along with the LED-powered saber, you do get the USB-C junction box. I'm just realizing that now you're going to need two USB cables. One to power Vader, and another to power the display base. Reva's hilts are painted just as well as Vader's, with this base layer of shiny silver making them look metallic and some pops of red in these teeny tiny crevices. There are two because Reva's hilt can split in half and that's what Vader does in the show, tossing her one and, of course, he has one. They aren't USB powered and there are no alternative versions that are USB powered, which is quite strange, because if you have Vader displayed with his lightsaber turned on, surely you'd want to do that with Reva's hilt as well. Unfortunately, you can't. We do get multiple different lightsaber blade options, starting off with the swooshing effect one. I like the idea of these, but the more I think about it, it just doesn't make a ton of sense the way they've sculpted this. A lightsaber blade is straight, and then as you swoosh it forward, there's this smear behind it for the trailing edge. This looks like a fan, and like the lightsaber is going forward and back like that constantly. It just doesn't work for me. It is cast in translucent plastic with a slightly clearer trailing edge versus the leading edge where it's more saturated. It does only work in Vader's hilts, not Reva's, because the ports are bigger on Vader's hilts. We do get 2 blades for Reva's hilts, and they are smaller than Vader's one. The paint is just okay for me. I would like if in the future they would dial up the saturation of the red, because without the LED saber turned on, this looks more like a pink lightsaber blade than a red one. This isn't really an accessory, it's more so a little tool that's meant to be used to move Vader's eye inside the battle-damaged helmet. You can just as easily use your finger to do that, you don't have to rely on the tool if you don't want to. And lastly, a full array of hands. They all have this leather grain texture on the surface, some wrinkling, stitching sculpted in between the rib sections, and some subtle bagginess here and there to make them look believable as though they're actual gloves. They are cast in this rubbery plastic, so maybe when you pop them on the wrist peg, you will be able to get a little bit of flex out of them. The first pair are these force choke hands. Then we get one splayed out finger hand for the right side and a closed fist for the left. 2 relaxed open palm hands, or maybe they're supposed to be used to rest on his belt boxes, because that is a pretty iconic Darth Vader pose. And then, only for the right side, this semi-open palm force-using hand. Some people suggested this is the hand that Vader used in Empire when he was stopping Han's blaster bolts as he fired at Vader on Bespin. Oh, and we do get 2 gripping hands already installed on him. What we are going to do now, though, is get Darth Vader himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses, or accessories, or anything like that. The only real word that comes to mind right now is wow. I thought Hot Toys peaked with the Rogue One Darth Vader. I was so wrong. This is my new favorite 1/6 scale Hot Toys Vader. And I know that I'm showing my hand way too early and we haven't even done comparisons. But just standing here in front of me, how clean everything is, how well the cape drapes, how proportionate the body is, and how wide the collar is, giving him this really buff appearance, that stuff just all works for me. It's everything that I loved about the Rogue One Vader, and more, because this one's got the USB-powered light-up effects, and the battle-damaged pieces. That is just icing on the cake. If you are after a perfect mind's eye representation of Darth Vader, with all of that extra goodness with the swap-out pieces, I don't think you can do much better than this. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Vader's first helmet. We will try out the second battle-damaged one and the switch-out chest plate, and we'll flip the cape around a little bit later. Right off the bat, this is as close to a perfect Darth Vader sculpt as I've ever seen. Essentially what they've done is they've taken the best parts of the A New Hope and Rogue One design, but modernized it at the same time. It doesn't have any of that sadness or droopiness to the eyes that the Empire one had. I know some people really like that helmet, it just never vibed with me personally. I much prefer the A New Hope design, with this much bigger neck piece, the slightly smaller triangular grille underneath the main grille, and the red/orange tinted lenses. They've even retained the mismatched panels, with some being painted in gunmetal and others being painted in black. The reason why they did that originally for A New Hope was cameras weren't as good at capturing contrast and detail as they are nowadays back in the 70s. So they had to paint the panels differently so that it didn't just look like one big black blob on camera. The top dome piece, love the shape of it, sticks out around the back, and it is super shiny and reflective. Just like the nose and the little tusk pieces. You do want to be careful of these when you are trying to pose the head sculpt. Don't grab it from the front. Grab it from the chin. I think that's going to be the safest place to leverage when you are trying to move the helmet around. Please bear with me, it's very difficult to show this cape off on camera because it's just a big mess of black fabric. It's quite heavy and there's a decent drape to it, so sitting over his shoulders, you don't have to do anything with it. It sorts itself out, no problem. And it's 2-ply. For one very specific reason that we are going to get to. Now around the back we do have this quite ugly control panel. I call it a junction box because this is what you connect the USB cable to. Then you plug all the other bits and pieces into it to power his LED light up features, including his LED light up lightsaber. It's supposed to hook onto his belt, but I found that when you do that, either the USB cable or this one ends up pulling it up and off the belt. So honestly, I'm just going to leave it free floating. Something to be aware of is the cape does have this pleather collar up on top, and it is on both sides because you can reverse the cape. I've slowly but surely been alluding to the fact that you can flip the cape around. The reason why we'll get to. There is this plastic chain up on top that is supposed to sit on top of his chin, but in certain scenes in A New Hope, it was tucked underneath and completely hidden. If you do want to do that, you can push it up under there, pull the head sculpt down, and now it's gone, and accurate to A New Hope. In certain scenes. The chest armor is sitting on top of the tunic, so if you did want to adjust that to be accurate, you have to take the head sculpt off, slide off the chest armor, pop it underneath this tunic as you're sliding it back on. I don't think that I'm going to do that because with the cape around the front, it's kind of doing the same thing anyway. It is made of plastic, but it's painted to look nice and shiny and metallic. There's a decent level of gloss to it, plus some airbrush shading around the edges, which is not something I've seen Hot Toys do with any of their other Darth Vaders. Unfortunately, the one thing that I was hoping they weren't going to do, they did. The suit is made of pleather. So, who knows how long this figure is going to last? I'm hoping it's a while, only time will tell. I do still have the junction box connected, and the LEDs are all turned on. When you unplug it, it doesn't look quite as good. The LEDs, I mean, because now Vader looks completely deactivated. I would have liked to have seen a third chest box with these panels painted to look like they're turned on. And as you just saw, it's pretty easy to remove. Oh, and the tunic is made of the same heavy but still drapable fabric, just like the cape. You can holster the lightsaber hilt on this little metal hook because there is a metal D-ring on the lightsaber hilt itself. The belt boxes have some subtle weathering to them, and the same thing can be said for the belt buckle. The whole thing is free floating, so you can adjust it up and down if you so choose. The cod piece is made of this rubbery plastic, but it looks like it's made of leather. There's all this pulling and wrinkling and leather grain texture sculpted into the surface. If they can sculpt something like this and the gloves to look as convincing as they do, there is no reason to use pleather for a belt, for example. So going forward, I would like to see Hot Toys use more durable materials in the future. I think we can all agree on that, because as collectors, we want our figures to last as long as possible, if not forever. The price that we pay for these things, they should be more durable. Hot Toys often touts that something is more accurate this time, or something is more articulated or more flexible, but they never mention durability, and it is really, really important. Now, the legs are covered in that ribbed pleather bodysuit, and the boots are also made of pleather. These armor plates are quite glossy, so do watch out for fingerprints, and spiky around the front. So when you're posing the ankles, maybe just take them off the Velcro, dial in the pose, and then you can pop them right back on. I know in the unboxing segment you technically already saw these pieces. We got a bit of a tease because they packaged him wearing the battle damaged components. Still, I wanted to save it. I wanted to talk about Darth Vader stock first and then look at all the battle damage stuff. So now that we've done that, let's switch the pieces out. Oh, he looked good before. You know what? No, scratch that. He looked great before. But now, all battle damage like this, he looks like $1,000,000. There is no way I'm displaying him with that other helmet on. As beautiful as that sculpt is, this is just the superior head sculpt. Having the evil Sith moving eye, and the subtle smirk to Anakin's face, and the gnarly, nasty looking skin with the redness to the wounds, plus the fact that the helmet is cracked open with the subtle silver chipping and dry brushing and even some metallic blue on it, I don't think you can beat this. It's not maybe as iconic as a clean original trilogy Darth Vader helmet. I don't care about any of that. The sheer cool factor alone sells this to me. They've also gone ahead and added that little breathing apparatus thing that we saw on the base of Darth Vader's helmet in Return of the Jedi when the top dome portion was removed by Luke. Now, he does have that one moving Sith eye, which is a little bit challenging to get to because you do have to remove the back part of the dome, which is pegged in on multiple little pieces. So trying to take it off, because it does have that split in it, you do want to exercise some caution. Now that we have removed it, you get access to the basically ball joint for the moving eye. You can just use your finger to move it around, and when you do, you can make him look all kinds of creepy. With a bit of a head tilt and the eye looking up at us like that, he looks so freaking mean. We've just infused so much personality into this head sculpt. I think that I will display him looking forward because now you can see the detail for the smirk and the side of his nose. The chest box is also battle damaged. There's this gash across the front and over the top of these two little LEDs. There's this speckling of dirt and grime on it, but nowhere else on the body. It makes sense because that's where he was slashed by Obi-Wan. I still would have liked to have seen a couple more battle damage pieces perhaps. The cape is pretty neat, how it's reversible and the collar is visible on both sides. The same thing with the chain, it works either way. The battle damage doesn't actually look all that convincing. If this was fabric that had been hit by Obi-Wan's lightsaber, it would be singed and burned. It wouldn't look like someone's taken a pair of scissors and just chopped a few pieces out. That's how it comes across to me. I think that this could have been done better. The last thing I want to show you before we move on is the light up lightsaber. Now that I've connected the cable to the junction box, there are 4 cables, actually no, sorry, 5 if we count the USB-C connection at the bottom. And the cable for the lightsaber isn't very long, so trying to put him in dynamic poses, you might not have enough length to accommodate that. I will be going with a custom saber for my Darth Vader because even with this powered on, it doesn't look all that good. I wanted to make mention of the fact that the show is wildly inconsistent when it comes to how Vader wears his cape collar. In certain scenes, it's sticking out and over the top of the bottom of the helmet, like how he wore it in Empire, whereas in others, it's more akin to how he wore it in A New Hope, where it's tucked up underneath the bottom of the helmet. I personally prefer it to stick out, just because it frames the bottom of the head sculpt and it makes him look bigger and bulkier. If you want to tuck it up under there, totally doable. It's all down to personal preference. I did allude to this, but my biggest complaint with the Empire Vader has always been the helmet. It just doesn't look right to me. The gap between the top of the eyes and the dome is too large, and the dome falls off constantly. I am curious to find out if we can use the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series helmet on the Empire body. So let's give it a go. People are going to hate me for this, because I know it's not accurate, but the new helmet just pops right on the body, and I'm going to display my Empire Vader like this. I think it looks incredible. It's much better than just popping this helmet back in the box because I'm going to display the new Vader with the battle damaged one. It's the same underlying body, so of course the neck connector is also the same. It pops right on there, no problem whatsoever. For a quick side-by-side comparison, let's start off with where it all began for Hot Toys and Darth Vader, with their original 1.0 A New Hope version. That's the figure you're seeing on the right, soundbox and all. Back in the day, they did end up giving us a 2.0, but he came included with Grand Moff Tarkin in a 2-pack. And stupidly, I passed on that 2-pack, thinking the Vader was going to be identical to this one. That is still a decision I regret to this day. A New Hope Vader is a little bit shorter than the new Kenobi series one. The helmet looks way shinier on the new release. The armor plating for the chest is a little bit more bulky, so he's nowhere near as flat-chested as he was. And we do have the USB-powered light-up effects. Now, the chest box on the A New Hope Vader was fixed and raised with the 2.0. So if you have that one, it doesn't look quite as goofy as my Vader on the right does. The cape does drape more naturally on the left, and thank goodness they came to their senses and ditched the wires for the inner tunic robes. Something about the Vader on the right does look a little bit more messy. But I suppose that does work for A New Hope Darth Vader. Okay, I think I see what's going on here. They've clearly given the new Kenobi series Vader slightly longer ankle pegs. just to give him a bit of an added height boost so we know that this isn't David Prowse in the suit, this is Hayden Christensen. There's a point of difference between all of the other releases and this one. Here we have the Rogue One Darth Vader, who was, previously, my favourite Hot Toys Vader figure. The new one edges it out ever so slightly. I love the battle damage pieces, I prefer the taller and more proportionate body, and the chest box with the USB-powered LEDs, that's just icing on the cake. Prior to the release of the figure on the left, this was Hot Toys' most up-to-date Darth Vader, the Empire Strikes Back mold. A lot of people love this release, and I understand, I loved it too. But it's not perfect. There were certain things that just didn't sit right with me, like the shape and size of the helmet. Compared to the Kenobi Vader, Empire is shorter, and I just straight up prefer everything about the new one. The USB-powered light-up effects, the battle damage pieces, and the proportions. There's something about the sideshow Return of the Jedi Darth Vader that I still really like. It's got this charm about it. He's almost the exact same height as the new Kenobi series Vader. So for anyone who's said that the sideshow one is simply too tall to be accurate, well, now you're gonna have the same issue with the figure on the left. I like the blinking chest box effect on the sideshow release and the sculpted plastic boots. Everything else, I give to the Hot Toys one. You would think, being the titular character from his own show, that Obi-Wan should have been released first as part of the Obi-Wan line. He wasn't, for some unknown reason, so here we have the Episode 3 version. It's still Ewan McGregor playing the character rather than Alec Guinness, so I think this works just as a rough height comparison. Darth Vader absolutely towers over Obi-Wan. And finally, Reaver on the left, Grand Inquisitor in the middle, Darth Vader on the right. For now at least, I will be displaying these three figures together on the shelf, until we do actually get Kenobi from his own series. Then I'll mix it up and have him battling a battle-damaged Darth Vader. True to form, Darth Vader dwarfs both Reaver and the Grand Inquisitor, so he absolutely is the tallest dude in the room. Going over Darth Vader's articulation, starting off with his head sculpt. You do want to be careful with the helmet because the neck piece does sit right on top of the chest armor. So when you're turning it left and right, just make sure there's a decent gap between those two pieces to avoid paint rub. The helmet itself is on an articulated neck and a double ball peg, looking forward to there, looking up to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. The shoulder pads are flexible, so they should get out of our way. The arms will go up to there, going forward and back on soft ratchets, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down, swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, then inside the glove, for the wrist peg, we have a hinge and swivel. But because the glove is sitting so tight around the forearm, you can only really get swivel. There are electronics inside the torso, which means it's going to be more restricted. Crunching forward to there, going back to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. The cod piece is going to get in the way of the legs, fingers crossed not too much. Going forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, ratcheted double bend at the knee going past 90, and then for the ankle inside the pleather boot, a hinge and swivel. It's basically a massive wrist peg. I would have preferred a double ball peg, but I understand Darth Vader is quite tall, he's pretty heavy, they wanted to go for a sturdier joint. Before you start to move it, I would suggest taking off this armor plating, because it does hang down over the shoe portion and it's quite prickly. The foot will go forward and back and swivel, but if you want to access the ankle tilt, you will have to rotate the joint inside the boot and then it'll rock side to side. Moving on to the three cool and three annoying things. The first annoying thing is a really minor one, and I know you technically wouldn't be using both display bases at the same time, so this might be a moot point. But if you're including two display bases, I really think you need to include two poles and crotch grabbers, because having to switch this piece between them, for me, just isn't ideal. The second annoying thing is the USB-powered LED light-up lightsaber. It just doesn't live up to my expectations. I know Hot Toys can do better than this. Number one, the cable is far too short for dynamic posing. Number two, neither of Reaver's hilts are USB-powered or light up at all. And number three, they've gone with that stupid baselit design. So the red LED at the bottom of the blade is supposed to shine through all the way up to the tip. It just doesn't work. It's brightest towards the bottom, and slowly but surely it gets dimmer and dimmer until we get to the top of the blade. My perfect solution would be to ditch the base-lit hilt design altogether. This blade is made by Fusion Reactors. Link to their Insta is in the description below. It's also USB powered, but it's significantly brighter. And it is not CCFL, so you don't have any of those drawbacks with the blade getting too hot or that little dongle on the top of it. It looks nice and clean, and it's way brighter than the Hot Toys one. Even with the studio lights on, you can see how much brighter the Fusion Reactors hilt is. The cable comes out from the bottom, which I prefer, and it's a lot skinnier plus significantly longer, so it's going to be easier to work with for dynamic posing. I apologize, I know that was a bit random to insert that kind of plug in the middle of the pros and cons segment, but when I stumble across something cool made by an artist in the community, I feel obliged to mention it, so I thought I'd bring up Fusion Reactors. Now, the third annoying thing is pleather. If ever there was a time to give us a genuine leather outfit on a Darth Vader figure, it's with a DX release. Hot Toys shat the bed on that. This guy is entirely covered in pleather. The boots and the undersuit plus the belt. All of that stuff does stand a chance of deteriorating over time. The first cool thing, while I didn't love the USB light up effect for the lightsaber, I love it for the chest box and the belt boxes. It's so much simpler than messing around with button cell batteries. We have 3 cables, they connect to the junction box, you plug this in with USB-C, and he's powered permanently in your collection. The second cool thing is the cape. This is bar none Hot Toys' best cape ever. It drapes perfectly, it's nice and heavy because it's 2-ply, and it's reversible, so you can flip it round and have the battle damage on the outside. The third cool thing has to be all of the battle damaged pieces. The chest box, the cape that we just mentioned, and of course this gorgeous head sculpt. Wrapping up on the Hot Toys Obi-Wan Kenobi series Darth Vader. This guy is almost perfect. The one thing that's holding him back is the pleather. I reckon Hot Toys knows what they're doing, because if they had made his suit out of genuine leather, I don't think anyone would have picked up any future Darth Vaders that they make, because their current one would have withstood the test of time. But now, making this guy's suit out of pleather means that there's always going to be that little worry just hanging out in the back of your mind, where you're thinking, how long is my Vader really going to last? Especially if I pose him. Should I cut my losses, sell my current one, and pick up the new pleather Vader? Whereas if they'd used genuine leather, that would have eliminated that issue entirely. So I reckon they're saving it for a future release, or maybe they're never going to do it, because that just removes the whole reason why people go ahead and pick up future Vaders. I don't see it that way, I would pick them up anyway, but some collectors don't want to have multiple Darth Vaders, and I get it. You only want to pick up one version of an iconic character, and you want to stick with that one. Everything else, the proportions of the body, now that he's slightly taller, spot on. I love the sculpt work for everything, it's crisp, and the paint applications are beautiful. But the best part about this figure has to be the battle damage pieces. Having that cracked helmet with the little eye poking out that you can move around, that's the way I'm going to display him. All battle damaged all the time, because it's something different and it's going to help him stand out amongst the sea of other Hot Toys Vaders. One other thing that I really appreciate is that they included 2 display bases. So if you want to have him posed on the Fortress Inquisitorius, you use that base, or if you want to have him posed battling Obi-Wan, you can use the Rocky Outcrop base. You have options, and for a DX release, 2 bases at minimum should be the default. So at the end of this, do I recommend him? Hell yes. As long as you don't live in a country where it's super humid and the pleather is going to deteriorate very quickly. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research. Make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.